Okay, I want to welcome you to episode 2 of the Simply Learn Amazon Web Services project that I've been working on during my training for the Amazon Web Services Solution Architect Associate Certification. Project number 2 is a little more detailed, a little more interesting than project 1. And it's also just digs a little deeper in. There's a few more steps in the process. So as you see, we're already at the dashboard. Want to do a few housekeeping things to begin with. For all intents and purposes, we're going to assume that that all the environment is already built out, that we do not need to build out the VPC, subnet, ACLs, or security groups, as we talked about in the previous lesson, because all this stuff is already built out for us for this particular case. In the previous lesson, the environment was a little newer and a little fresher, so we're going to use the environment as it's set up currently. Now, we'll remind you, as a part of the shared security responsibility, when you get a new environment with Amazon, it is recommended that you go ahead and create a new VPC whenever you're creating a VPC for your environment, with new new ACLs and security groups. This will help to ensure that you know exactly what's going on in your environment and that everything is nice and secure. So from there, we'll move on, and we'll talk a little bit about our project that we're going to do here. In this project, we're going to actually build out some autoscale groups. The scenario that we have is that we've been asked to set up a WordPress blog for our company per their defined specifications. During business hours, which are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., the blogging team would like to use their own development copy of WordPress so that any work they do doesn't impact their live copy that's running the website. The plan to achieve these goals is using Amazon CloudFormation, creating a new AMI, and then implementing auto-scaling. So we'll use CloudFormation to create an EC2 instance to run WordPress with the following specifications. Our instance type is going to be T2 Micro. We're going to create a new AMI for the WordPress instance, and we're going to configure an auto-scaling group to launch the new WordPress instance during that time frame of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, it sounds pretty easy, but there's a lot of steps. So the very first thing that we need to do, because I just logged in, I do not have a key pair. So the very first thing I want to do is I'm going to hop up here to the EC2 section, and we'll go in here and get us a key pair real quick, so that we don't need to worry about this as we work through this process. So we're going to name this Simply Learn Degonia KP 12, because I've probably gotten that many key pairs thus far through all the different things I've done. Anyway, we'll go ahead and create those, and as you see, it'll automatically save the file, which will go to my downloads page or my downloads folder. And I want to keep that readily available. The other thing I want to do is I want to highlight this because I'm going to need it in a little bit. And that was a bit more than I expected. Let's try this again. I want to copy these fingerprint and everything. This is not something that you have to do all the time. I just like to keep track of this stuff, keep it readily available, because I'll need it later down the line. Now from here, we're going to go back to the services dashboard, and we'll go to CloudFormation. Now CloudFormation, because my environment's already set up, I don't have to worry about creating that virtual private cloud and going through all those steps like we spoke about earlier. We can actually just go straight into creating a stack. Now, what a stack is, for those of you who don't know, is instead of just installing WordPress like on GoDaddy or something like that, we're going to build out the entire stack, which is the hardware, the software, the web server, for example. It'll automatically install Linux. It'll automatically install Apache, which is the web server, MySQL, and PHP, which is the programming language level of the stack. So we don't have to worry about building out each one of those things individually. It is built for us, prepackaged, ready to rock and roll. So that's a great thing. It makes it a lot easier and a lot faster because building those individually can be very time consuming. So we'll go ahead and create the stack. We're not going to worry about any of this design template or anything. We could go in there and do some work in that and create a few things, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go and pick WordPress blog under single instances samples. And then everything looks good there. So we've got what we need, and we'll click next. We're going to create a stack name, which is simply learn dash Degonia dash WordPress dash stack. And we'll go ahead and call that one 12 as well. And then we'll make our DB name simply learn simple Degonia, and I like to use the date, which is 5/10/2017. I like to use that because if I ever have to go back and look at that database, it gives me an idea of the day that I created it. So from here, there's use a password that's complex enough to keep the bad guys out. You got to be a minimum of 8 characters. The MySQL root password, which is, in this case, it'll be the same thing. However, I would recommend that you use a much more complex MySQL root password, simply because even if someone gets into your admin section of your WordPress, if they can't get into your database, then you can recover your WordPress from there. And then database user, some people say root. In this case, I'll use admin. I recommend that you keep it as complex as you can without being ridiculously complex. Some people use the database name and the database user to be the same thing. Not necessarily a bad idea. For our key name, we're going to use the key pair that we created a few minutes ago. And that way we can log into our Linux version and test things out if we need to down the line via SSH. We're going to leave our SSH location open because you can pin that down to a single IP address. Personally, I'm using a dynamic IP address where I'm at, so it's probably going to change somewhere down the line. So we'll leave it open for now. We'll click on next. And for the key and pair value, we don't necessarily have to list anything in here. You could list your key pair in there. You could list a number of different values, but for all intents and purposes, we're just going to leave these blank. Because of the restrictions to the IAM roles that I have with this particular instance of AWS, we're not going to do anything with the ARN role, and we're not going to do anything down here on the advanced settings for notifications. We're just going to leave those things alone for now. We could set up SNS, but we'll cover that in another lesson down the road. Okay, so we click next. All right, and we've got a lot of information. that tells us about what we've got going on. We've got our AWS CloudFormation sample template. We've got our template installs SQL database for storage, CloudFormation Bootstrap scripts to deploy WordPress. This template creates an Amazon EC2 instance. You will be billed for the AWS resources used if you create a stack from this template. Gives us the rest of the information, the stack name, database name. It obviously blocks out the important information like passwords and usernames, and then lists that we have no notifications. So we're going to go ahead and create this, and this will take a few minutes. So we'll sit here and chat or sit quietly. I could tell jokes, but that probably wouldn't be good because I'm not a great joke teller. Let's see. This should take about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll hit refresh and we'll watch it as it goes through. Okay, so it creates complete on the security group. So it created its own security group. Everything's good to go there. It creates in progress. Let's refresh again. And we can actually drop down these different arrows here, and it'll tell us some idea of what's going on, though it can be a little cryptic unless you totally understand everything. But essentially what it's telling us is that it's created a physical ID within the system. It's got the WordPress stack, WordPress server security group, the web server security group, and AWS CloudFormation. It's in US East 1 and gives us a bit more information about it. Let's see here. We'll just keep pushing refresh and watch these events roll through. We take a quick look here at the overview. We take a look at the outputs. We see that this is actually the website URL. So if we wanted to visit this website, we could copy and paste that. So I'll put that in my notepad here as well, so we can come to that later. And it looks like our creation is complete. Yay, we've created something. That's always a good thing. Here's our physical ID for our web server, our events, template. There's a lot of information here in the template. Talks about different things that we have here. In the parameters, database name, T2 micro, DB user, DB password, DB root password, tags, stack policy, and any changes that were going on. So let's open up another browser window and we'll just see right quick if we've got anything. And hey, looky there. We've got a full WordPress instance ready to be set up. So we'll go ahead and set this up. We'll call it Simply Learn Degonia, and we'll make the password admin, and we'll put in a password here that I like to use. And apparently it's a weak password. And then we'll use my email address. And we will not discourage search engines from indexing this website. We will, however, go ahead and install WordPress. And our instance of WordPress has been installed. So we can log in from here and admin. By the way, I am also a WordPress designer. I love WordPress. Uh, it is the greatest thing since Joomla, which was the CRM that I used to work on before WordPress. So we'll take a look here, and we'll go ahead and log out of this, and let's go on back and take a look at log out of that, log out, log out. Okay. So we're going to take a look here at what WordPress looks like on the up front, on the front page there, and see what the home page looks like. We could have went in and done all sorts of stuff to it, but that's not the purpose of the lesson here. See, so we got Simply Learn Degonia, just another WordPress site, and our WordPress site is up and functional. That is a very good thing. So we're going to go ahead and we'll close out this window. We'll take a look here, and everything looks good. So from here, since we've got everything working and we're just rocking and rolling right along, we're going to move on over and create an AMI of this WordPress instance because it works. We like it. So we'll go up here to Services. We'll drop down to the EC2 Compute section. And we'll see over here in just a second that we have one running instance. That's a good thing. So one running instance there. And give it just a second. One running instance, and we see our key name over here. So we're going to name this we'll name it that so that we can keep track of it. And we see all the nasty details here. We've got our block devices, we've got our VPC, we've got our private IP address, our public IP address, and our public DNS, which is good. We see that we've passed our reachability checks. Everything's good there. Our monitoring, if we wanted to monitor that, that's an awful lot to look at once. And then any and all tags that we may have. Okay, so we look good here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go down here to image. We want to create an image of this particular instance. And once we create that image, which we'll name Simply Learn dash Degonia dash WordPress dash image 1, we'll leave that as an 8 gig size general purpose SSD. We'll go ahead and create that image. Now it's going to take a few minutes. And we'll go over here and take a look at the View Pending Image AMI section. And we see that it is pending. And this little refresh button up here is real nice because it makes it real easy to just kind of get an update. Now remember, I think if you watched our last presentation, I showed you these little buttons over here where you can increase the size of the screen that you can actually see your details and whatnot. We'll go ahead and put that up there a ways, and then we can always adjust it down just a little bit where we can see what's going on. Because up here in the search bar, it just shows our AMI. So there may be other AMIs that are in this particular VPC, but this is the only one we're concerned with. And we're still pending. Visibility is private. And it does take its sweet time, I'll be honest with you. I had one the other day that I was trying to build, and I think there were 4 or 5 other people on here doing the same thing. It took 15, almost 20 minutes to build. So that made life interesting. Fortunately, at the time, I wasn't recording anything. Otherwise, that would have been an awful lot of talking on my part. Which this may still be a lot of talking on my part. But everything else goes pretty fast once we get this part done. Then we'll go into building a launch configuration and an auto-scaling group. And then we'll actually auto-scale this and have multiple instances of the exact same WordPress site up and running. So it'll be pretty cool. All right, it's available. Looky there. That is a beautiful thing. So we now have an AMI. And this is our AMI ID. That's important to know. This is our AMI name. And when we go to set up the auto scaling, this will play an important part. We're not going to do anything in the name here. Last time I did that, I think it's because of something to do with the instance we're using. It kept throwing errors, and so there's no need to throw errors if we don't have to. So you can do one of 2 things at this point. You can either go and create a launch configuration, and it will only create a launch configuration, or you can go create an auto-scaling group. Now, what's interesting about this is when you create the auto-scaling group, it's automatically going to create the launch configuration for you. So I know that there's a purpose behind that, but for this particular application, we'll just do the auto-scaling group. Okay. Isn't the silence great? As the blue circle spins around and around. All right, here we go. So as this screen comes up, we will click on create auto scaling group. Now you can set these up for adjustable capacity. To maintain a fixed group size. You can set these up for auto provisioning, keep your scaling group healthy and balanced, whether you need 1 instance or 1,000, or provision instances based on a reusable template you define called a launch configuration. That's exactly what we're going to do here. So we're going to create our auto scaling group. And step 1, create launch configuration. So we'll go ahead and click there, create launch configuration. And then we'll go from there. Now, when you're presented here, you're going to be presented with a ton of different options. We're not going to choose any of these. Because we created our own AMI, we're going to click on My AMIs. We have Simply Learn, Degonia, WordPress, Image 1. There's our AMI number. So we've already got that configured. and ready to go. So we'll select that, and we're going to make it a T2 micro, which we've already discussed previously. And that's also what's in that particular image. So we'll do the configuration details next. And we're going to name this Simply Learn. If you're watching this, then you're probably going, yeah, Simply Learn. That's what you should name it. We'll name it LC12 since everything else has been 12. We're not going to worry about requesting spot instances because we're not doing that. The IAM role, because we don't have IAM configuration capabilities under this particular instance, we're not going to mess with that. We could enable CloudWatch detailed monitoring for this, for this particular instance. We're not going to do that. However, we can enable that later on. And we can change the launch configuration as well. So now we're going to add storage. Storage is already added, 8 gig, general purpose, lots of IOPS, and then delete on termination. And we want to do that because this is not, what's going to launch is not going to be, it's just going to be a development site. It's not going to be a permanent site. So, so we're good there. So we'll go ahead and create the launch configuration. We will create a new security group. Everything's good there. We're going to add a few rules. Obviously, we want to be able to get to it via HTTP, and we want to be able to get to it via HTTPS, and we want to be able to get to it or have it utilize SMTP because WordPress does send out emails. It has the capabilities of doing that. So we'll do SMTP. And then we also want to do DNS UDP, which will allow us to assign DNS going outbound and inbound for this particular instance. And so we'll just set all these as anywhere. Now, honestly, it's going to tell us in a minute that this is not the most secure way to set this up. I 100% agree. However, but for this training purposes, this is the way we're going to do it. Obviously, you want to be as specific as possible when you're setting up your source destinations, and that this allows other people from accessing certain aspects of whatever you've got running. So this is the best way to go about this for now, but in the future, for security purposes, you definitely want to scale that down and zero it in as much as possible. So we'll review this. Once again, improve security instances, blah, blah, blah. It's open to the world. We know that. It's okay for this instance. We're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and create our launch configuration. We're going to use our existing key pair, and we have those in our downloads folder, which we already talked about. And now we'll create the launch configuration. Okay, so now it's time for the auto scaling group. So we're going to create Simply Learn dash Degonia dash auto scaling group dash 12. Just a theme. Because of the scenario here, we're going to say the group size is going to be 0 because we don't want it to start off with 1 and then grow from there. We just want to leave it as 0. For the VPC, we're going to use our default VPC that's already been built for us because we're in an existing environment. And then here, we will actually go in and choose one of the subnets that's been used. So we'll use the US East 1A availability zone and the 172.31.1.0 subnet. So we'll go ahead and use that. With that, it'll automatically be able to set up and assign an external IP address. So we're going to configure our scaling policies. We're going to keep this as the initial size because we don't want it to grow except for during the time frame that we want it to fire up and work. Okay, we're not going to worry about any notifications because the scaling group is not based on notifications or issues that arise where we need, elasticity or anything like this. This is just purely for development purposes. So we've got our tags. We're not going to worry about tagging anything right now, though I do recommend that you tag everything and tag it twice. And you know what? We will tag it. We'll tag purpose, development site for bloggers. Okay, so we're good. And then we'll go ahead and review this, and then we'll create our scaling group. All right, so we've got our scaling group. It's created. We've got our launch configuration. That's all done. So we could create another scaling group from the same launch configuration if we wanted to do that for a different department, and it would set up the exact same instance, fired up, ready to go, same usernames, passwords, and everything within WordPress. So the way that we created the AMI from WordPress, the way it was built right then and there is an exact snapshot. So if we had built out the entire website and it was nice and beautiful with all kinds of images and things, then that's what would launch with the new scaling group. Now we're going to go ahead and go look in our scaling groups because now is when we're going to set up our scheduled actions. Because we're not doing a scaling policy that says when you get so much traffic, go ahead and scale up. What we're going to do is we're going to have a scheduled action. So we want to create a scheduled action, and we'll call this simply learn-begonia-dev schedule 926. Okay, so we're going to have a desired capacity of 1. And so we're going to go with none. We're going to go with none. We're going to have a desired capacity of 1. And so we're going to do this every day. And we're going to say it is going to be a specific start time, UTC, which is universal time. So if it were central time, which is where I'm at, then it would be UTC -6. So if it was 12 o'clock UTC and I wanted to set it for 9 a.m., then I would open a web page and look at a calculator because I have no idea what those numbers are. So we'll do a UTC time calculator and converter. So we'll say the event is at 12 noon. Currently our time is 2:22:35 a.m. and we want to calculate that to Kansas time. Then it would be 6 hours behind. So for all intents and purposes, we'll just say that we're going to start this up at 2 a.m. UTC, which is somewhere close to 9 a.m. Standard time, and we'll start that on the 11th, which would be tomorrow, and so that would have our time for it to start. So we would create that, give a start time in the past. Okay. We'll say 06 and create. Okay. Now we want this to turn off 8 hours later. So we'll create another schedule and we'll call it Simply Learn Degonia dev dash schedule dash 6 p.m. So we'll put the desired capacity every day, and we'll mark this the 11th, and then it was 6, so that would be 1500 UTC is when we will turn that off. Now you've got your recurrence every day at at 1 a.m. UTC. Actually, that's wrong. It would actually be from 6 a.m. UTC to 1500 hours, which would be 3 p.m. UTC. And it would fire up one instance or turn off the same instance. Now, the other thing that we can do, we can go in here and we can delete these, which we will do, and then we can create a scheduled action where we can tell this to turn on right now. So we would do, just name it Simply Learn dash Degonia dash turn on dash now, and desired capacity, and we'll do one time, and we will choose the 11th, and it is current time. It is 2:26. So we will tell this to turn on at 02 and 20. Sorry, 02 and 27. 02, 27, we'll say 28 UTC, and then we'll create that. And we'll give that a second. And so then we'll create another one that will turn it off. And we'll set that for 511, 02, and we'll make it 32. We'll let it run for a couple of minutes so that it can go through its checks, and we'll create this. And so now we've got everything we need here to make this thing run. It's currently 9:27 p.m. If you look here, it shows 21:28 is when it's going to turn on. And since we've got this all good to go, let's go look at the EC2 dashboard, and we'll see that we've got an instance running take a look at EC2. And of course, now everything's going to run slow. And for some reason, we seem to be having a few issues there. We'll give this just another minute to sync up and show us what we want to see. And hopefully, I did not break Amazon. It's very, very robust. It did break one time here recently, but I promise I did not do that. Okay, and so we see here that we've got one running instance, which is ours, and everything is where it should be there. Now let's take a look. We had some issues there. Let's go back to that auto scaling group, and we'll set this up to auto scale again. Just because I think we had some issues. I think it scaled and auto scaled while we were having those issues. So let's do this one more time. I will set this up for the 11th, and we'll say 02. Let's see, 35, and we'll make this on, and we'll create that. Oh, that's right. Sorry. We got to have a desired capacity. And then we'll create our action We'll make this one off, and 1, and for the 11th, and 0, 2. And we made that one for 35, so we'll make this one for 39. And we'll go ahead and create this. And so we will, let's edit this. We need to take 0, put 0 in there, and save that because we want it to turn one off and not turn another one on. And let's go back up here to the EC2 dashboard. And so we see one running instance. And we see 9:34 p.m. Central Time. So we'll see this come up here in just a second. And please pardon the background noise. We are doing the best we can here. We'll see this pop up here in just a second. While that's doing that, we'll take another look here, and then we'll do a / WordPress, and we'll be at our site. I certainly like the newer templates that WordPress has been using as opposed to some of the older ones that they were using. Okay, it's 9:35. Usually this takes 35 to 45 seconds to fire up, but we'll see it in just a second, where it'll fire up another instance. So we'll take a look here. It may even take as long as a minute. There we go. There's our second instance fired up, and our as it's coming up, we'll see our public IP address there. Let's hit that again, and take a look at our status checks. And our security group over here is default. Let's see here. We see that we have an EC2. We've got everything here that we need. So let's open this in a new tab. And we'll do a / on that, and WordPress, and see what we get there. Give that a second. It's still initializing status checks and whatnot. And then it'll turn off again here in just a couple of minutes. This shows right here that it's a copy of the 113. So this is uh, our dev site. Let's try this one more time. And we'll just make sure that our other stuff is up and running. Okay, let's run here and see if these are done initializing. Here we go. This looks better. Take a look at that. I'll close that window down. It's not playing nice with us here. It looks like it's going to open now. Well, for whatever reason, maybe I didn't check something 100% or something. We're just to keep the video from going too much longer. We're not going to worry about that right now. We can take a look at it later, and I can actually do another video just on that. But all the checks look like they ran. Everything looks good. It could be the instance type that I use that slowed things down. That T1 micro is pretty small. It's a pretty small instance, so it may take a few minutes. We'll try it one more time just because I hate not having everything work right. And go. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Okay. Well, we're not going to worry about it too much. The gist of it is that we got our EC2 management to work properly. We got everything to start up and run, and we'll give it just a second to shut down. And it did what it was supposed to do. So that's the important part. And all the scheduled actions have been ran. So let's take a look back up here and see. We've got 2 running instances. We should have an instance that's shutting down soon, which should be this T1 micro. Okay, so we were able to take a look at a couple of things here. Uh, it does look like that T1 micro is pretty small, which may be why the website is not coming up and displaying the way it was supposed to. However, that's not my big concern. My big concern is that the auto scale group work appropriately. We can work out all the bugs on the other stuff in another instance. Um, so I've went back and reset the power down for 948 because we did have a bug going on there that was able to troubleshoot. And so we'll give it just a second here and make sure that it powers off appropriately. And so it is 9:48 p.m. Central Time. We'll start refreshing this and taking a look to see what's going on. We should see it start to power down here in the next minute or so. Last time I did this in a test run, it took about a minute and a half, 2 minutes for it to completely power down. So we should see it just any time. Uh, we'll take a look at our auto scale group again, just to be sure. And our scheduled actions. And so that scheduled action has already fired. So that means it's just a matter of time. We'll go back and look at one more thing at the auto scale group. There is a history section, activity history that we can take a look at. And it looks as though the latest one was successful, and it is turning it off. So now let's see what we've got here. We've still got two running instances. So, like I said, it just takes a second. I just want to look at a couple things here. Hmm. Okay, let's take a look at the auto scaling groups one more time. And we'll just see if something else is going on here. Okay. Well, let's take a look at something else here. We're going to create a new schedule. I'm going to call it on 0, 1, and 1. And we'll set this here and 0, 2, 57. And we'll say yes. And then we'll create the turn off. And we'll say off. And 0, and a max of 1, and a desired capacity of 0. And we'll set this for the 11th. And we'll make this for 0300 UTC. And we'll create that. And let's see what happens here, because I don't think our instance ever fired. And I think that's the reason why we weren't able to see what we were looking for. So we'll take a look here and see. I think coincidence that this particular instance here fired up. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't stop that instance. Yeah, see, we're not authorized. So that's not our instance. Otherwise, we'd be able to stop that. It's very interesting that is set up that way. So, like I said earlier, it could be that there are some other people working in the same instance that we're working in. Okay, so looking at our auto scaling group, our turn on has fired. Let's go back up here to the EC2 dashboard, and we'll take a look at our running instances. And we see another instance here that's turning on, and our key name, it's got the correct key name here. Our instance ID, it's a T2 micro, it's in East 1A, which is what we had set up previously. So we'll give it a couple of minutes to go through the process. Looks like coincidence kind of bit us in the backside on that one. As soon as this one's ready, we should be able to fire it up and see our website. So let's see what we can do here. We'll open this in a new tab. And WordPress. Helps if I spell it right. RDPRESS. And let's see if we've got our WordPress site up and running here. We'll let this finish going through its paces on its status checks. There we go. So there's our new IP address. We've got our WordPress site up and running. This is the development site, and everything is good there. So it's amazing how things work out when you're looking at the right stuff. So in just a second here, we're going to see this same instance power down, and then we'll be done with our project. And that'll be a good thing. So let's give it just a second. And it is now 10 o'clock on the money. And we'll go from there. Still initializing. Let's go ahead and refresh. We'll take a look at our auto scaling groups and see if the second portion has fired yet to shut down our instance. We'll go ahead and close this down. And our scheduled action looks like it has fired. So we'll go back up here to the EC2 dashboard. And we only have 2 running instances. So during that time frame, our T2 micro instance did shut down. And it should terminate completely and go away. And that's a good thing. So this is how you make your auto scale groups work. You can make them work off of a number of different ways. You can scale via notifications, via health checks, via traffic utilization. You can scale via load balancing information. You can scale via time frame. So there's just a number of ways to make that happen. And this is how project number 2 defined this to be done. So I hope that we didn't lose too many people along the way. We did run into a couple little problems, but we worked through them. Everything worked fine. And I thank you very much for coming and joining me for this presentation. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. My website is tonydegonia.com. That's TonyDegonia.com. And you can hit me up on the Contact Us page. Once again, thank you for stopping by, visiting with us, and have a great day. All right? Take care.